Straight now to Birmingham, and I'm joined by the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, who joins us after the Birmingham rally with Reform UK. Nigel Farage, welcome to the show on GB News. Also on the screen now we have a picture of the door of Downing Street. Any moment now, Nigel Farage, we're expecting Sir Keir Starmer to emerge before he goes to face his MPs in Parliament. What would your message be to Sir Keir Starmer today?
It's over. It's done. The game's up, mate. Time you recognised it. I mean, look, how on earth can the Scottish parliamentary elections go ahead when you've got the leader of the Scottish party saying he doesn't support the national leader? That to me is the straw that does actually break the camel's back, and it's just now simply a matter of time. He's lost legitimacy, he's lost authority, events have moved way beyond his control, and I'm afraid it's all down to his own grievous misjudgment. But remember, even before the Mandelson case, he was already the most unpopular Prime Minister in living memory. Anna Sarwar in Scotland has come out and said, we don't want him as leader. It's not even tenable that those elections go ahead with Starmer as leader.
Is the truth of the matter, Anna Sarwar perhaps expected some of the ministers to fall into line behind him? Instead, he's gone up the ladder in the trenches. He's now on his own. Surely he's going to be cut down in a flail of lead.
Well, we'll see what happens at 6 o'clock. You know, at 6 o'clock, you may well find backbenchers speaking rather more frankly than cabinet ministers who, whatever they think in their hearts, do not want to appear in the history books as the man or woman that held the dagger. I would suggest to you it's much more likely that that is what's going on.
And we've seen so far, at least on social media, a unified backing of the Prime Minister. Of course, that's one thing to do that on social media. It's quite another to do that in private. Do you think the truth of the matter is the Labour cabinet will have to back their Prime Minister? Because if they go to the country, if they face the music, they'll be obliterated.
Well, look, you know, for now the Labour cabinet can back the Prime Minister. It looks more and more likely that in their sixth safest parliamentary seat of Gorton and Denton, that maybe the voters won't back them there. The May the 7th catastrophe that was Wales could now extend to Scotland as well. And ultimately, this will be about not whether cabinet colleagues rally round, it'll be about how many backbenchers speak out at 6 o'clock tonight and in the days to come. I do not believe there is any possible way he can survive this for very long.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GB News in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called custom removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
And Nigel Farage, the names being touted as potential replacements for Sir Keir Starmer, do you think they're going to make the country better or worse?
Oh, worse. I think what comes next will be even worse. The Labour Party will move to the left. They'll put taxes up. More entrepreneurs will leave. Less foreign direct investment will come in. There could even be a run on the bond markets. And I've always said, Martin, that I thought a general election would come in 2027. I think there's a chance it could come at some point this year now.
And are you thinking that may happen because if the country tacks to the left and the external world gets a notion that we're becoming more, I don't know, of an economic basket case like France, there's going to be a shock to the system?
Yeah, I mean, look, if the markets take the view that the UK economy is in a doom loop and that we've gone even further to the left in terms of our economics, then frankly, anything could happen. And when markets, we saw this back in 2008 with the great financial crash. When markets turn, they can turn very quickly. I'm not saying that it will happen, but what I am saying is the possibility of that happening will be all the greater if you finish up with a Rayner-type figure as Prime Minister.
And of course, your critics, Nigel Farage, would say if there is a general election called, you won't be ready. There aren't enough candidates. You have 8 MPs on the board there today, but they'll all be saying, no, things have been much, much worse under a reform government because you have no experience of governing.
Well, look, we've taken in a handful of people in recent times who've been cabinet ministers. We now have people at the upper echelons of our party who've been in number 10, who've been in government, who know what they're doing, and I think you'll see we're building a team. I'll be announcing shadow cabinet positions over the course of the next few days, and we will be ready. If the election's in 2 months' time, we will be ready.
And you said today that at 3 p.m. your application list to become a potential candidate for Reform UK is open. A lot of people will, of course, be saying that's a huge amount of vetting that needs to be done. Are you confident that we won't see any repetition of a few, how should you put it, fruity candidates being on the list?
Well, look, I mean, what happened at the last general election was a disaster, but it was very much more an amateur party in those days. We will be ready, we will vet them, and I think you're going to find some very high quality people who've never been in politics before, who've got real experience of the world and perhaps been successful as well, will want to stand for our lists. I know that is going to happen.
Nigel Farage, we seem to be reaching a consensus now. Even the supportive media, the BBC, ITV News and others seem to be reaching a consensus. We are now approaching the final days of Sir Keir Starmer. We don't know how long that might take, but when we look back on Starmerism, how do you think it'll be remembered?
It'll be remembered as a loveless victory in a general election that predominantly happened because of people's disgust at the Conservative Party, and that it was a premiership with no goals. There was never a mountain, in the distance to climb. There was never any clear direction of travel, other than words like change that were trotted out. Much of what he did wasn't even in the manifesto, and because there was no driving mission, events forced him to U-turn again and again and again. A rudderless prime ministership led by a man who, whatever his talents may well have been as a lawyer, is frankly just not a leader.
If you're a gambling man, Nigel Farage, when do you think that the axe will fall? When do you think Keir Starmer is going to be gone?
If I was a gambling man, Martin, you know I'm a gambling man. I think he'll be gone before the end of the month. That is my view.
The end of the month. And then what? Then there's going to be a leadership challenge. And, what would the country look like under Angela Rayner?
Well, Rayner, I guess the asset she has is personality, which is sadly lacking in most of the Labour Party, who are pretty lifeless. But you know where she stands, and she'll take us down the route of definitions of Islamophobia, of workers' rights to the level where small companies just don't want to employ anybody, and high taxes and possibly even wealth taxes. That is where we'd go under a Rayner premiership.
Nigel Farage, of course, you're in Birmingham today, and the local elections are launching in May. That's why you're getting together there. I wanted to ask you for your comment on a story we've been covering here a lot on GB News, and that is of a previously convicted terrorist standing as an independent candidate in the Spark Hill region of Birmingham. Some people think it's an extraordinary situation that that's even allowed to happen in this country.
Well, you've got a convicted terrorist standing in Birmingham. You've got sectarian politics now alive and well in Birmingham. A Birmingham police department who acted against the Israeli fans simply because they were Jews. You've got two-tier justice in Birmingham, two-tier policing in Birmingham. The bins are overflowing. The council's bankrupt. If you want to find out what broken Britain is, just come to Birmingham.
Nigel Farage, what would your message be to Birmingham in particular? Because I'm here with Lord Steve McCabe, and he said it's a canny place to launch because Birmingham traditionally hasn't been a sort of particularly rich ground for your type of politics, but the country seems to be switching to the left, the Labour Party vote being cleaved, and you see an opportunity for Reform UK to be able to win in that area.
I genuinely think we've got a slightly better than 50% chance of winning in Birmingham. And boy, if we do, it'll be a very, very, very steep learning curve and a hell of a lot to do. But I think people in Birmingham are desperate for something different because what we've got just doesn't work. And what we've got to do is put before the people of Birmingham competent candidates, people with experience, people who can get hold of a budget and actually run things. I think we've got a better than 50% chance of winning in this city. I really do.
I know you've delayed the unveiling, the revealing, if you like, of your shadow cabinet in waiting until next Monday. We were rather excited that might be today, but I guess you're keeping us waiting. But I want to ask you about the fact, Nigel, that there are three people who would like to be the Chancellor to get the top job. The new boy, Robert Jenrick, of course, your loyal deputy, Richard Tice, and Zia Yousaf as well would like a nibble at that post. That's a lot of competition. How are you going to cope with three big names wanting one job?
Well, you're jolly fortunate, Martin, because you know far more than I do about the people inside the party and what they want to do. I haven't delayed anything. I haven't promised anything for next Monday. I said over the course of the coming days, I will start to unveil the shadow cabinet. Simple as.